Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another chapter of Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas, Chapter 19. Please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe. I do hope you're enjoying the series so far. Without further ado, let us begin. It is Christmas Eve. Are you a gambling man? Sandy, deep in his lair, Oogie Boogie shook a pair of dice in the chubby Christmas King's face, close enough to tickle his beard. Let's play. Garish neon lights shone on the wall of Oogie Boogie's underground hovel. The sound of the dinging slot machines and the whirling roulette table were deafening, dangling from the end of a rope tied around his hands. Santa Claus wasn't sure how much more tolerant he could endure. Torture he could endure. Right as Oogie Boogie prepared to throw the dice, a knock at his door made him pause. Who could it be? Visitors were unheard of in his lair. Even Lock, Shock, and Barrel refused to come down from the treehouse into the pit. Oogie Boogie was usually alone with his bugs and the occasional snake. A shapely female leg slipped between the jagged gaps in his lair door. The owner of the leg remained coyly hidden, as though too shy to reveal herself. A dainty black boot lifted into the air, tantalizingly. The cloth that formed Oogie Boogie's lips fell open in shock. His first visitor, and what a visitor. My, what have we here? With a wiggle of his burlap eyebrow, he spit into his hand and wiped back the unruly top of his sack head before sauntering towards the door. The leg gave an extra alluring shimmy as Oogie Boogie trips towards the leg. Two dismembered cloth hands crawl towards the barred window high atop the opposite side of the cave. Sally had never been so thankful of her body, for a body that could come apart with a simple tug of a thread. Her hands had a mind of their own, but luckily all her vital parts agreed on the same thing. Only Santa Claus could save Jack now. While Sandy's leg distracted Oogie Boogie, her hands pushed themselves off the wall and grabbed onto the rope holding up Santa Claus. They used their fingers to climb down the rope silently, and one of her hands clasped itself over Sandy's mouth before he could scream. The other pointed upwards, urging Santa Claus urgently. Santa Claus followed the hand's instigated direction to see Sally outside the barred window. Her arms, which ended in stubs packed with dry leaves, clung to the bars. I'll get you out of here, she whispered as loudly as she dared. Her dismembered hands made quick work of untying the knot that bound Santa Claus's hands. Meanwhile, Sandy unrolled the rope ladder she had attached to the window. As quietly as she could, Santa tiptoed to the ladder and began to climb. Back at the lair's jagged door, Sally's leg was still teasing Oogie Boogie with its coy dance. Oh, lovely. Oogie Boogie's deep voice rumbled. He ran his sack hand down the curve of the leg and tossed off its black boot with a flourish. Tickle, tickle, he teased as he toyed with the bottom of the foot. With a delightful victory, this was. What a delightful visitor this was. He's booby trapped his lair with all sorts of mechanical devices to keep unwanted guests out. But for this lovely lady, he'd gladly make an exception. Oogie Boogie pulled a little too hard, and to his confusion, the leg came away in his hand. He stammered back in outrage as he looked at the detached ragdoll leg, spilling dried leaves. What? He roared. He whirled around to find Santa Claus and Sally making their escape out of the window. Now he understood the trick that the ragdoll had played on him with her detached leg. You tried to make a dope out of me. He drew in a deep breath, powerful enough to suck up dozens of wriggling and crawling bugs in the air. The force of his inhale even threatened to pull Santa off the ladder. The old man clung the ring with all his strength, but Oogie Boogie's lungs were too strong. The rope ladder tore clear off the window, dragging Santa Claus as well as Sally back into his lair. Sally and Santa were so dazed by their fall that it didn't take Oogie Boogie long to capture the two of them. He threw Sally into his Iron Maiden torture chamber while he tied down Santa to a portion of the roulette wheel that was angled up like a plaque. Sally took her needle from her hair while she had hidden it where she had hidden it. It quickly sewed on her dismembered hands and leg before Oogie Boogie dragged her out and tied her down onto the plank next to Santa Claus. Oogie Boogie stood over them and cackled huskily, trying to get one over on him. Not today. Now he was exceptionally glad he'd booby-trapped his lair, because these two visitors were definitely unwelcome. You wait till Jack hears about this, Sally cried. By the time he's through with you, you'll be lucky if you... Her threat was interrupted by the sound of the mayor's megaphone coming from somewhere outside. The mayor's voice filtered through the window. The king of Halloween has been blown to smithereens. Jack Skellington is now a pile of dust. Oogie Boogie's cloth mouth pulled back into a devilish grin. This was the best news he'd heard in months. He rattled a pair of dice in his hand. What was that you were saying about luck, Ragdoll? Santa Claus shook his head in sorrow. Sally gasped, not Jack. In the land of the living, Jack Skellington lay broken and battered on a cold gray statue surrounded by snow and fire. The police voice cut through the night on a nearby patrol car speaker. Attention citizens, terrible news. There's still no sign of Santa Claus. Although the imposter has been shot down, it looks like Christmas will have to be canceled this year. I repeat, the imposter has been shot down, but there's still no sign. Was he dead again? For the first time, he died. He'd been so long that he couldn't even recall what had killed him. Oh well. Whatever it had been, it could have possibly have been worse. It couldn't have possibly been worse than this. His death was icy cold. It was darkly bleak. It was a faint bark made him blink his eye sockets open. Maybe I'm not dead after all, he thought, although I might as well be. He looked around to discover that he was swelled in the middle of a snow-covered cemetery. Graveyard rose like petrified dragon scales out of the shadows. Pieces of the broken sleigh were scattered everywhere. Zero floated over with Jack's jawbone clutched in his mouth and affixed it back onto Jack's skull. Even though Zero and Jack had survived the crash, Zero's nose had lost its glow as the dog felt the depth of his friend's sorrow. Jack tested his jawbone to make sure it... It worked. He sat up slowly on the large tablet-like open book held up by a stone angel who had broken his fall. His Santa Claus suit had been tattered, soot stuck to his face. Broken bones would heal, but how would he ever repair the damage he'd done to the world? All around the cemetery, the ruins of the sleigh smoldered in the snow. The toys his town's residents had spent months crafting were quickly becoming nothing more than ash. How fitting that his flight should end in a cemetery where his greatest hope would be buried forever. What have I done? He moaned. The rest of his skull and his hands felt feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. How could he been so wrong? How had everything ended up such a mess? All he'd wanted was to show them something they'd never seen before, to dazzle them. He flopped back onto the angel statue's open book with his hands pressed against his forehead. Poor Jack, he thought, pitying himself. Bury me, Zero, he moaned. I want to die, and I want to be dead and gone. He could picture his headstone now. Here lies poor old Jack. Zero floated aimlessly around his companion as the wrecked toys continued to smolder. He didn't even pick up a piece of a broken tricycle for fetch. Jack sighed deeply. Oh well, I tried, didn't I? Then he suddenly sat up again. The rising flames and the cold night air were stirring his bones back to life. Yes, he had tried, and he'd come so close. Who else could boast such a feat? Zero's nose began to glow again faintly as the spotlights continued to sweep overhead. Jack's spine straightened. Yes, I tried, and you know what? For a while there, I did dazzle. I flew amongst the stars, and oh, the stories they'll have to tell their children. Tales of the most memorable Christmas ever. He coiled his fingers into a triumphant bony fist. He jumped down from the statue, testing out his bruised bones as he strode amongst the flaming wreckage. I'm starting to feel like myself again. He leapt onto a tombstone. His bones were starting to remember what it felt like to leap, to dance. He jumped from one gravestone to another, growing more excited. He had never been meant to spread cheer. He had never been meant to spread cheer. He was meant to sow terror, to haunt children's dreams, to rouse goosebumps. He jumped onto the back of a bench and let it fall backwards as he gracefully sprung into another statue. Then he ripped off the red suit to reveal his black and white striped Halloween suit beneath. He held up at the night. I'm Jack, the Pumpkin King. He cackled as he conversed beneath the spotlight sweeping overhead. His bones had forgotten what they were for a short time, but now they remembered. He tested out a few of his old prize-winning scare faces. I have the best idea for all new scares. His arm stretched towards the moon as Zero floated over, holding the Santa cap in his jaw. Jack suddenly felt all his renewed confidence move aside in one fell swoop as he remembered everyone waiting for him back in Halloween Town. And there was no telling what those rascals, Lock, Shock, and Barrel, had done to poor old Santa Claus. Jack needed to get to Oogie Boogie's lair before it was too late. Oh no, I hope there's still time to set things right. Tucking the Santa Claus hat into his suit's inner pocket, he threw open a trap door at his feet of the angel statue and dove into a dark tunnel within. Come on, Zero, Jack called back to his dog. Christmas isn't over yet. That is the end of Chapter 19. We'll be picking up Chapter 20 in the next episode. Please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and I'll see all of you in the next episode. Goodbye.